seems to be a trend this year. Every game seems to be MCDC and the Detroit Lions' biggest game of the season. But this game, Week 13 with the Jags, is really our biggest game of the season. Will we be able to bounce back from a tough loss Thursday, Thanksgiving, against the Bills? Also, when you break down the schedule, we can win the next 4 games of the season. It will really dictate the future of the franchise. And it all starts Week 13 against the Jaguars. Let's go. Alright, hey, welcome in, fellas. As you guys know, I'm Hat and Beard. Before we get too far down the line, go ahead and do me a favor. Go ahead and click like on this video if you enjoy the content that I make, and hit subscribe so that you can continue to help me grow this channel. And if you're really feeling it, go ahead and ring the bell so that you never miss out on any future notifications. Now that that's out of the way, let's go ahead and break down the Lions' Week 13 matchup against the Jags. So, guys, as we know, the Jags are very similar to our franchise. They've been kind of a dumpster fire for a while, but they're a young franchise. They've had top 10, top 5 picks the last few years. You know, they picked Trayvon Walker ahead of Aiden Hutchinson this year in this year's draft, which let Hutch slide to us at 2. And that's looking better and better. There's a lot of similarities we can draw between these two franchises. There's also a lot of revenge game narrative scripts that could be played out, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. So I think really the big question for everybody, for at least the Lions' sake of the game, is will AG continue to be able to scheme out 99% of the opposing team's offensive weapons? Because he's been able to do it ever since the Green Bay game. And I think that you're going to have to really kind of treat Trevor Lawrence Aaron Rodgers-esque. Not saying he's Aaron Rodgers. The way that we were able to limit Aaron Rodgers and make him play an all-around perfect game, the last few games we've had to deal with quarterbacks that are a little bit more mobile than the, you know, average quarterback. And I'm not saying Trevor Lawrence isn't mobile. He's actually quite athletic when you break it down. But he's not Justin Fields. He's not Josh Allen, nor does he have the arm of Josh Allen. He's got a better arm than Justin Fields, but he's nowhere near as mobile. So what we need to be able to do is we need to make Trevor Lawrence play an absolutely perfect game and make no mistakes. Can he do that? I mean, it's not impossible. He's actually been showing signs of growth over the past 3 weeks. I think that has mainly to do with them, you know, firing Urban Meyer, because that was the worst head coaching hire possibly in NFL history, and bringing in a seasoned Super Bowl winning head coach who did it with less than stellar quarterback play. I mean, he did it with a combination of Carson Wentz and Nick Foles, which Nick Foles ironically played in Jacksonville, and we've already beat up on Carson Wentz, and he's going out sad in the NFL. But Trevor Lawrence is growing, and, you know, that's not necessarily something that we've been able to handle well this year. We have struggled against coaching staffs that are more seasoned than us. And, you know, Trevor Lawrence, he's not bad. He's ascending. He's possibly better than Jared Goff at this point in his career. I'm not saying statistically wise that they even compare, but he throws a better ball. I mean, Jared Goff, I don't know what happened to Jared Goff, but he just can't throw. Every single deep ball he throws just as a Jared Goff duck. It just flies through the air. Trevor Lawrence does kind of scare me, and he does have weapons. Christian Kirk is not a bad wide receiver, and Marvin Jones, another revenge game narrative, he's not a bad wide receiver, and Travis Etienne, the fact that Travis Etienne and Trevor Lawrence played together in college really bodes well for their chemistry that they've developed over their collegiate career, and you can see the success that they're having this year in the NFL when the Jacksonville Jaguars decided to trade James Robinson to the New York Jets and put the entire workload on Travis Etienne, and he's been able to thrive. And unfortunately, Detroit has, at least in the first quarter of the season, we struggled to stop the run. The last few weeks since the emergence of Aleem McNeil has, when you compare, or when you compile Aleem McNeil and John Kaminsky and Aiden Hutchinson all together on the field, you actually have a huge bottleneck at the running back position that has been able to flip the last quarter of the season, which is very impressive. I'm not necessarily as worried about Travis Etienne as I was, say, 6 weeks ago, but that's not saying he can't get it done. Now, I know that in my last video, I kind of really hyped up that J-Mo is going to be coming back, but Dan Campbell said in an interview earlier in the week that it's going to be a pretty tall order for J-Mo to come out and play. You know, I'm not necessarily mad about it. I'd love to see it because our offense needs that deep threat, although I did express a little bit ago the concerns I have about Jared Goff's deep ball. J-Mo, you don't want to rush this back because you don't want to risk ruining him, despite how enticing it would be to have him back. So I'm not necessarily upset with him not returning. I'd like to see it, but I'm going to err on the side of caution. I've been erring on the side of caution with Jameson Williams all season because I don't want to screw up our sports car, man. I'm very excited about him being. So don't expect to see him to play. Expect to see a rotation of Khalif and Amon-Ra and Josh Reynolds and DJ Sharp. What will be fun to watch, though, is the Penei Sewell versus Trayvon Walker versus Aiden Hutchinson's stat line comparison, because just earlier in the week, Aiden Hutchinson was named the NFL's Defensive Rookie of the Month for the month of November, and, it came down to, well, who was going to go number one overall? Was it going to go Hutch or was it going to go Trayvon Walker? And I was very, very elated when we took, when Jacksonville took Trayvon Walker and Aiden Hutchinson fell to us at 2, because I thought he was the better talent in the draft. And unfortunately, the first few weeks, Trayvon Walker was starting to emerge as a better player, but now Aiden Hutchinson has just taken the cake and is starting to run away with it. I'm not saying he's going to win Defensive Rookie of the Year, because although him and Sauce Gardner have the same amount of interceptions as each other, and Sauce Gardner is a defensive back, so that's why it's a silly comparison. When you're not throwing the ball at that player, they don't have a chance to intercept it. So Sauce Gardner really is the reincarnation of Revis Island, and I mean, honestly, that's awesome. That's awesome that he came from a small school like Cincinnati, and then he's been able to just emerge as such a huge superstar in a large media market like New York, because, I mean, deep down, I've always been a little bit of a Jets fan ever since the Vinny Testaverde, Curtis Martin days. Oh, man. Wayne Corbett and Anthony Beck. Yeah, man. Back in the day. And I like Robert Saleh. I wanted us to hire Robert Saleh in Detroit as our head coach, because, I mean, I'm not at all surprised to see what he's doing in New York, based on just the type of mentality that I've seen the guy with in interviews, the energy that he seems to conduct himself with. He seems to be a culture-changing head coach, and I'm glad to see the success that he's having in New York. And when you look at the first-round success that the Jets had this year, it came down to basically like us and them on who won the draft, and so far it's tilting in New York's favor. But, when you look at our late-round picks, like a Kirby Joseph, like a Malcolm Rodriguez, hell, even like a James Houston. You guys realize that James Houston, who was just signed to the active roster because we had to put Charles Harris, who's unfortunately been having just a trash can of a season, and that's unfortunate, because I was really hyped that we were going to keep the Charles Harris redemption arc story going. I was really hyped about that, because he was a former first round pick who fizzled out, and then he came to Detroit, and last year he did fairly well. He led our team in sacks. Unfortunately, when you have a better talent on the team like Aiden Hutchinson, it outshines Charles Harris. Also, he's just not able to do the things that he did even last year. He seems to have lost a step, a little bit of burst. That's unfortunate. The benefit to that is that we get to now have James Houston on the active roster. James Houston against the Bills on Thanksgiving, he played 5 snaps on defense. 5 snaps and had 2 sacks. That's awesome. That's the type of production you'd like to see out of a 6th round pick. Also, he is Neon Dion's first ever NFL product out of Jackson State. So that's awesome. I think that's a pretty cool storyline. Like I said in the beginning of this video, though, the outcome of this game sets the future of the franchise, because if we lose this game, the tanks are going to roll, right? There's no reason to try and win out and win it, like really be competitive the rest of the season if you lose this game. The outcome of this game dictates the start of the quarter, because when you look at how the Lions' schedule shapes up the last few weeks of the season, we got the Jags, which is a winnable game. We got Minnesota, which is a winnable game. 50-50. Okay, there's a chance we can beat Minnesota. We hung in there with them. We just made bad coaching decisions early on in the season. We got the Jets, which is a 50-50 game. However, I think the Jets are very beatable because they don't have a franchise quarterback. Now, Mike White is good. Mike White is very good, but I think the controversy that they've been having all season will start to cause fatigue in the locker room and cause some issues and open up the opportunity for us to be able to beat the Jets. Carolina, there's no reason we should be able to even consider losing to Carolina. They're a dumpster fire of a franchise. They're somehow an even worse mess than we've been in the last couple 2-3 years. There's no reason we should lose to the Bears, and then we wrap the season up at Green Bay, and there's a strong chance Aaron Rodgers won't even play. And so, look, guys, there's a chance we can go 4-2 over the last back end of the season. So if we go 4-2, that means that we went 7-3 over our last 10 after starting the season 1-6 to finish 8-9. That's a huge turnaround from where we were last year, and even just an in-season turnaround. Now you couple that with the just abysmal LA Rams pick, there's a chance they could get us a top 3 pick the way that the Rams are playing. I mean, they're shutting Aaron Donald down, the Cooper Kupp. Who knows if Matt Stafford's even going to play? Kupp's on IR. Look, the Rams are a dumpster fire. I mean, Deshaun McVay, comment down below, Deshaun McVay end up resigning and going to, be a broadcaster somewhere for a little bit, because the Rams are, not only are they a dumpster fire of a situation right now, but they don't have any future draft capital because they gambled it all. They wanted to win now, and they traded away all of their draft stock to the Lions for Matt Stafford, and it paid off for them, and they won their Super Bowl. But there's no future past that because Stafford shot. His arm's done, man. And we were able to get the benefit of bringing in a bridge quarterback who can get the job done. We all knew that we weren't going to be competitive the few years with Goff, and it's nice, it's fun to think that we could make a playoff push, but the reality of the situation is I don't think he's going to be the guy to get us over the hump. Seems like a swell dude, but I just don't think he's that guy, man. And they gave us, not only with Jared Goff, but they gave us 2 first-round picks. One last year that we were able to leverage with a package deal to Minnesota to bring in Jameson Williams, and then one this year, which is slowly becoming a top 3 pick. And I don't know, that then opens up a whole beginning of a conversation of drafting players, which I don't really want to get into yet, because look, if we finish the season 8-9, we're still in the hunt. If we could push for a playoff spot. So if we beat Jacksonville, I don't need to think about the draft. But if we lose to Jacksonville, then I have to start thinking about the draft, and then we start into the early, mock drafts and looking, and that's just something that I didn't necessarily want to be doing this at this point in the season, because I've been so elated over the last 4 weeks of the season with the Lions turning things around. It gave me a little bit of hope that we didn't have to continue this November, early December draft boards and mock drafts, and I'm just enjoying it. Vegas has this game with an over-under of 51.5. I'm going to smash the over. There's no reason why the Lions can't drop close to 30 points on the Jags, and realistically, there's no reason why the Jags can't put up 21-24 points. So I'm actually going to say the Lions are going to win 27-21, take the over. Look, there's no one position group that the Jacksonville Jaguars are better than the Detroit Lions at. The only advantage that the Jags have over us is they have a young, more athletic, and emerging star as a quarterback, and he's coupled with a very seasoned Super Bowl winning head coach who did it with very untalented quarterback play. So really, the only position that the Jags have that they're grayed out better than us at is more experience on the coaching staff. There's absolutely no reason why, after being so competitive with the Bills, and I understand you lost, but the culture's changed in Detroit, right? The culture's changed. Well, that's what we're all about, is changing the culture. So the culture's changed, and you've had 10 days off. You've had 10 days off to recuperate, get healthy, and scheme to stop the lowly Jacksonville Jaguars. Big PP Ben Johnson's going to call a great game. He's going to figure out how to get the ball into the playmakers' hands. You're going to see the rotation of running backs. You're going to see the ball going to Amon-Ra St. Brown. The big X factor is, does DJ Shark decide to show up in his revenge game narrative? And you've given AG 10 days to try to figure out how to stop or at least limit T-Law and make him play an absolutely perfect game. Because if T-Law messes up even once, we have the volatility on offense and the playmakers now on defense to take advantage of it and make those mistakes be regrettable mistakes, not just near misses. As I've been saying the last 4 weeks, it's just going to continue to be rinse and repeat. You got to play smart, sound, fundamental football. The Lions have been doing that, which is why we won 3 of the last 4 games and why we were so competitive with a Super Bowl caliber team like the Buffalo Bills. Yeah, I know Josh Allen was a little dinged up, but he still was out there doing Josh Allen things, and there's no reason why we can't stop T-Law when we were able to limit Josh Allen and we were able to limit the last few quarterbacks, and I know Aaron Rodgers. I see no feasible route to victory for the Jacksonville Jaguars short of Trevor Lawrence playing an absolutely perfect game, and I just don't think that AG is going to allow that to happen. I think he's finally figured it out and he's finally clicked, and we've got all the players to do it. My final verdict, the Lions are going to win 27-24 in a close game. Make it even funnier, Riley Patterson's going to miss the last second field goal to send the game into overtime and just make me look like an absolute asshole for just raving about him all season long. So I think the Lions are going to pull it off 27-24. All these games are coming down to one possession games. Dan Campbell flexes hard and shows that he grew over the last 10 days and figured out how to do a little bit better clock management. You know, our players are going to be a little bit more healthy. We'll be able to scheme a little bit better. I don't see any reason why the Lions can't win this game. Let me know what you think. Drop a comment down below. The Lions are going to win. What is your final? What do you think the total of the game is going to be? And who is going to be our playmaker on offense and playmaker on defense? I'm going to take the easy route, and I'm going to say playmaker on offense is going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown because he's my favorite player, and playmaker on defense is maybe we see Kirby Joseph stick his nose and grab another interception or two. We haven't heard a lot out of him the last couple weeks. Hutch has kind of been stealing the show, but maybe Kirby Joseph gets out there and reminds everybody that he, you know, there's more than one defensive rookie superstar in Detroit, and Kirby Joseph is his name. That's gonna be it for me, fellas. We'll catch you guys next week. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. I've been Hat and Beard. You've been an attentive audience. See you next time. Peace.
Time to 23 Skidoo. Or should I say 69 Skidoo.